Hi, Kelly Martin here, Dakine 420. Wanted to give you some instructions on mixing up our powdered fertilizer into your reservoirs. I wanted to emphasize that this is just a kind of a small little example of how to mix on a small level. Guys that are using large reservoirs with recirc pumps and or injector systems, we've got some information on that as well. But this is what I want to show you guys is how easy this mixes up, how soluble it is, how pH stable it is, and how clean it is once it is mixed up. So with all that being said, I wanted to start off by saying that before you get going, and a couple of tools that are really important for any successful grower. The commercial guys all know about this, most growers do, but sometimes budget constraints or people that are just starting off in the industry or wanting to hobby grow, they don't have a pH meter or a PPM meter. So very important tools to help you be successful. So the one thing I did want to mention is that when you do have a pH meter and you do have a PPM meter, make sure and calibrate them often. So you can go down and get some solution, a 4 solution, a 7 solution, and then they've got this is to calibrate for pH, and then they also have some PPM solutions so that you know exactly where your PPM meter is reading. This one is at 1500 parts per million solution. So we want to make sure that all of our gear is all calibrated and dialed in, so there's no guessing by gollying in the market or in the reservoir. But understand that that I'm just going to try to show you again quickly how well this all works. I want to start off. I'm going to get these off to the side here. Know that this equipment has been calibrated for all intents purposes. All of our products, powdered fertilizers, we weigh them to get our desired PPM levels. The measurement, I don't want to get into a lot of detail on this, but the measurements of EC, which is electrical conductivity, converts into PPMs like this. 1 EC equals 500 parts per million when using a 500 PPM calibrated meter. The other meter, most common, is 500, but there is another calibration that they use that is a 700 scale. So always remember EC is the primary target, but if you're using a 500 PPM meter, which is what all of our recommendations are with our feed schedule, 1 EC equals 500 PPM. So if you have a 200, or excuse me, if you have a 2 EC, it's going to be 1,000, 3 is going to be 1,500, and so on, and multiplications of 500. Same holds true with the 700 scale. 1's going to be 7, 2's going to be 14, 3's going to be 21. So just know that our feed schedule is based on a 500 PPM scale. So if you didn't know that there was different ways to measure or different tools, now you do. So again, because we're in powders, not milliliters, everything that we have is measured in grams. So on our labels and on our feed charts, we have what each teaspoon weighs in these different fertilizers, because some are a little denser than others. Some of them are, our root powder as an example, might only be 3 grams per teaspoon. And then some of our denser stuff, such as our base, might run up as high as 7 grams per teaspoon. So I'm going to mix up some grow formula. I'm going to shoot to get it maybe around 700-800. Let's see what happens. But first of all, I want to show you what our tap water, where our tap water is for both pH and PPMs. So the pH of the tap water, I don't know if he can zoom in on that or not, but it's going to be showing really close to that 7.7 area. So it's a little, it's alkaline. It's a little 7.7, 7.8 about where it's running. So that's where our tap water pH is. tap water PPM. Is running about between 80 and 90. So Central Oregon here, we've got pretty darn good tap water. Some places throughout the country, your guys' domestic water might be 200 or 300 parts. So the reason why I say that is that an RO water, reverse osmosis, is going to end up being close to a 0 ppm. Our feed charts are based on 0 to 100 ppm, so kind of in this calibration range. Understand that ppm is your holy grail of where you want to be on the feed chart. When we tell you that we recommend being at 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000, whatever that looks like, strive to get to that level. Our feed chart is a guideline. It's not exact, but it'll get you darn close. So if you want to dial it in to be exact, you may have to add a little teeny bit of water if you're running a little higher ppms, and you might want to add a little teeny bit of fertilizer if you're running a little low. So so understand that. Hopefully I'm not complicating things. I certainly don't want to, but there's some guidelines that we want to adhere to. So I'm going to mix this up for us, and in our grow formulas, we're calling for equal parts of grow and base. So this is 1 gallon container. I'm going to try and get it up to about an 800-ish ppm, and in order to do that, I'm going to use a half a teaspoon of each. So I got a half a teaspoon, and this should weigh out at, he's not going to get this, but that's about 3, so that's almost a little over a half, but I'm going to throw that in there, and then I'm going to go ahead and the same thing with the base. I'm going to throw in a half a teaspoon of that, a little bit more. And again, on larger scales, you guys are just weighing up maybe ounces or pounds or whatever to get to these levels. I'm going to throw that in there. What's cool is that when I get to show you how clean it is. So on the smaller level, whether you're using 1 gallon, 5 gallons, 500 gallons, we've got different scenarios to mix this stuff up. But usually it's about 10 seconds or so, and it dissolves very quickly. You will see that when you're using a recirc pump in a reservoir, with that recirc pump being on all the time, it's going to break it down within a couple of minutes, and you'll be in really good shape. So I do want to check out both the ppm and the pH on this. And so we got 700. I'm not going exact on this. I just wanted to show you guys kind of where we were going to be at. So again, if we wanted to get to that 900, 1,000, because this is really what we're going off of, we're going to want to add a little teeny bit of each product equally to get to that desired ppm. So now let's have some fun and check out where the pH is, and if this product's doing its job. Usually we end up in anywhere from that 6.2 to 6.5. Let me kick myself in the rear here and see how it goes, because we're just winging it here, but let me see what we end up with. And it dropped it down to 6.7. So I fibbed to you a little bit, because what's going to happen is it's only at 700 parts. If I get up to 1,000 parts, which is common, that's going to drop down to probably more into that 6.5 range. So I do want to show you. I'm going to get it up there. Whoop. Okay. Curious now. So we're close to 900, and you'll see that pH is going to drop down. .66. And again, I'm going to just have some fun here with you. I'm going to take it up to maybe 1,000, 1,100. And just watch that pH come in line. So understand that when they're little teeny tiny guys in that early veg, they're going to use a little less food. But once you start getting a nice healthy plant and you start running it in that 1,000 or more ppm, it's going to end up so real close to 1,100. .65. It'll drop a little teeny bit more. So anyway, we ended up roughly at about a 6.5. You know, if you're running in a hydro and you're gonna, you know, lower it down into those high 5s or low 6s, it's gonna get you pretty close. But I also wanted to share with you how clean that is. But there's no fallout in there. It's all suspended, all soluble. You could see I just mixed it up a little teeny tiny bit, but again, with a recirc pump, pumping this around, it only takes a minute or two to break it down, so easy to break down. I am gonna have one of my buddies hand me one of the competitors. Okay, so you need to get a look at this too. I mean, hopefully you can get a good read on it. This is, we mixed this up just an hour ago and it's already just fallen to the bottom. It's so gunky. I'm gonna mix it all up for you. You could keep this in there for months. Nothing's gonna fall out. But I am curious where we're at for PPM on this. So I know I called this mucky muddy mess 1,000, but it's actually 980. So I mixed it up a little bit more. You know, you got basically two different products here, and a lot of the competitors out there in the market are like this. I'm sure a lot of people have seen their reservoirs dirty, plugged feed lines, having to clean up pumps afterwards. I mean, this is a muddy, mucky mess here, and it does fall out, as I showed you earlier. So there's a lot of products on the market like this. I think that we're one of the most clean, lean and mean, and I say pH balanced. I mean, we get fairly close. You know, as you saw when I just showed you, it wasn't like we were dropping down into the 5s or staying into the high 7s or something like that. There's certain types of products that will drop pHs rapidly, like a phos is very acidic and it'll drop a pH. Silica is very alkaline and it'll raise those pH levels. So depending on what you're using for amendments can have an effect on your pH. But again, just trying to show you the basics. Hope that you kind of learned a little bit. You can do this on a much larger scale. Like I said, you can actually take this product, and if you've got a 100-gallon res, a 500-gallon res, 1,000-gallon res, dump in your 1,000 grams, your 2,000 grams, whatever that is, and let that recirc pump mix it up. And it's only going to take it a couple minutes, and your reservoir will be just like this. And I've had guys that have had reservoirs, they've been running it for years and haven't had to clean their reservoir yet. So Big claim to fame on Dakine 420 is how clean we are, so keep that in mind. Know that we're very cost effective out there too when it comes to production and overall yields. So again, this is a mixing video. I just wanted to show you the basics.